Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Save some time for questions. Thank you very much. Someone want to run the microphone? You can speak up. I'll repeat your question.
I'm wondering what you would recommend as the process. Thank you, Guru. I'm wondering what you would recommend as the process for actually living and experiencing that story of Krishna as our reality. Because you mentioned earlier that previously, and maybe still now to a large degree, we're not very compassionate as a culture. And it seems that stems from a false imposition of that story before we're actually experiencing it. So how to walk that bridge or how to build it is my question.
Are you asking how do we become better devotees?
Maybe. You mentioned earlier there's a problem with the lack of care. And in my experience that has been, improving care as a devotee means getting into someone's deal and finding out what is their trauma and why does it bother you and like that.
Right.
That's the modern understanding of what it means to care. But then you finish the class by saying, Krishna is the internal story and that's what we should be thinking.
Well, those aren't mutually exclusive ideas. I mean, you have to keep working on ourselves. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Bhagavad Gita is the absolute ideal parallel study in human psychology. You know, read Bhagavad Gita and understand something about why we're behaving the way we are in this life. So we have to keep doing that work, digging out. I don't think it's possible. Let me go this far. Yeah, I'm already out on a thin branch. Let me go a little farther. I don't think it's possible to make substantial advancement in Krishna consciousness without asking these questions. Why do I behave the way I do? The idea that you just chant Hare Krishna, your problem is you're not attending Tulsi Puja, that kind of simplistic, ultimately hurtful kind of whitewashing of substantial issues doesn't do anybody any good. We're here, if indeed there is this, we talked yesterday about a cosmic background to creation. If indeed our life this time around is the consequence of previous actions, what are those consequences? Look at them. Don't avoid them. Don't run away from them. Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada never said, run away from your problems. I never heard him say that. Krishna consciousness equips us for going deeper inside the issues of our life to respond to them more effectively. So you have to do that work. You can't avoid that. But by the same token, as a community, can we do better to respond to one another's needs? Absolutely. You bet we can. So both things have to be there. I need someone who can run quickly. Bring the microphone over there. Thank you.
Thank you for wonderful, brilliant distinctions, really brilliant distinctions. And I should admit that I'm taking exception to one statement you made.
Please.
That the first generation of devotees made a level of sacrifice that other generations may not have to do or may not know about. And it sounds like a little bit of a general statement to make without knowing their reality and the reality of those that came after Srila Prabhupada. And so I would like you to help me understand you better because that statement almost borders on elitism a little bit, and I'd like to understand that.
Thank you. I accept the correction. I spoke wrongly, and you were right to speak up. It's not that the first generation is the only one to face harsh challenges. Everyone, whatever their generation, we're into our third and fourth generations now, Krishna consciousness devotees, will confront something, and sometimes it will be life-threatening. Perhaps what I meant to say was that in those early days, there was no New Vrindaban. There were no libraries of books. There were no temples and farms and restaurants and places. There were 3 storefronts. And we didn't have anything other than Prabhupada to cling to. And whatever he asked of us, it was so powerful that, look, people got killed. In Russia, you had to sneak books in, and you were caught and thrown into prisons and tortured and killed. And I remember spending time in prison for doing Sankirtan and distributing books without a permit or whatever it might have been. And so I didn't mean to say that, there's some, our suffering is greater than your suffering or anything like that. So I appreciate your correction. Thank you. Any other hints? Yes. Where are you? Hello.
I'm told from childhood that birth is not, it's not that birth is not important, but if you're closer to God, He makes you suffer like the way you stated right now. My question to you is, what after that? Like, you take it, you accept it, that is not, that's your fault, God loves you, so you suffer.
Oh, goodness.
But
Ouch.
what will be the next step after that?
Well, hold on, time out.
That is all right.
Time out right there. Let's take a break. All right. If you're suffering and you're saying, this is God's will, so let me suffer, you've got a misunderstanding here. If you're in a situation that is causing you pain, get out. If you're in an abusive relationship, don't say to yourself, oh, this is Krishna's will. I'm getting what I did. Get out. Staying in a... Yeah.
I mean, but
Wealth.
yeah, I don't mean a relationship. I
Well.
mean, like the way you said,
Yeah.
like if you are close to God, He takes away your wealth. So my question to you is, would that be, you should accept it for entire life, that yeah, you're close to God and that's how you're in the situation? What is next step? Is my question to you.
Well, first of all, not always. You don't have to be poor to become Krishna conscious. I mean, Krishna says, if I really favor someone, I take away their wealth. That's not the only way he favors someone. I mean, Krishna can, what's wrong with wealth? Wealth is great. It's wealth that allowed us to build this beautiful temple. There's nothing wrong with wealth, nothing at all. Some of the greatest devotees in history have been very, very wealthy people. Some devotees in their own movement have been very comfortable, very successful in business or whatever. There's nothing spiritual about poverty. Just as there's nothing spiritual per se about wealth. It's your approach to it. You have to remember that if this verse meant as much as it did to Srila Prabhupada at the time, Srila Prabhupada had an extraordinary mission to accomplish. Extraordinary mission to accomplish. And he was taking it very seriously. But he was trying to build a capital base in India before leaving for America. The thinking was, let me finance this mission. If I'm not what's the difference between failing in a mission and failing to finance that mission? His point was, I don't want to go there with nothing. But every time he gave his attention to the material wealth, the money, Krishna cut him off. And what was left was writing the books and then getting on the boat and going. That was a very, very special situation. So far as ourselves, you don't need to worry that somehow just around the corner, everything's going to be taken. I don't know about you, but I have this nightmare sometimes. I have this recurring dream. And in the dream, men in black with sunglasses show up in a big van, and they knock on the door and, hey, Yogesvara, we're taking it all back. Seriously, it's like, because I live with that feeling. I don't deserve for this. I've got some of that too. We all do. But it's not necessary to go through those kinds of deprivations in order to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. So we need to balance the picture a little bit. I hope that's okay. I'm not sure if I've answered your question or not, but other hands over here, over there in the back, Malati?
So I'm hoping the answer to my question is the oops, I forgot. You mentioned how anything alive is spark of spiritual energy. So I'm hoping that includes the women, because somehow or other the women were invited to chant the verse today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Oops, I forgot. If that happens, it's because for me, you and I knew Prabhupada. There's no difference. I mean, what is this idiocy, this misogynistic male superiority crap? Excuse my Sanskrit. I mean, really, it's a non-issue. It shouldn't be an issue. It's 50 years. We're past that now. Let's move on. Yes, Prabhu.
So we're talking about the verses about Krishna's way of love and the devotees who hear him. It seems like different devotees have different quotas. So I want to see if you could talk about that. It seemed like Hovaita Sridhar, he didn't have any wealth when he was Chidai Mamu, who loved him. And then we have the very wealthy. So
I want to go to your class.
So I wanted to see what you could elaborate on this, the different devotees. People have different quotas that are allotted to them, perhaps.
Different quotas or different skills? Are you talking about each of us has a particular skill, this particular kind of service that we're suited for?
Yes and no, but maybe perhaps, but like this one person has the karma to make a lot of money, perhaps, and then one devotee might not have that karma to make a lot of money, but they're both considered devotees of the Lord. And then there's other instances where Krishna did seem to take away all their wealth. He did, but in other people he didn't. So it's interesting how
Right.
every devotee is a little different. So I want to see if you speak about that.
Well, I'm not sure that was a question. It was a very valid observation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But you can take it the next step, I guess.
It may be a little bit off point. So questions generally mean on the topic, but I'm happy to talk with you afterwards if you like. Is that all right? Okay. Are there questions about the topic here? I see a hand here. Yes.
Hi, Krishna. Early on we spoke about praise, and so I'm wondering how, as a devotee or non-devotee, how to find a balance between engaging in an activity without expecting praise in return. And I think for myself as a parent and as a devotee, I think about this a lot. How can I support my family and my community in the activities they're engaging in and encourage them without necessarily having to say good job as though they're my pet dog, but really helping them shine in what they're engaging in without them expecting praise in return constantly, or myself expecting praise in return, because that's really my material conditioning from my childhood. So how can I encourage without having to praise?
I'm not sure I understand the premise on which your question is based. Are you saying that praise is not good?
I think my interpretation is that if there is constant praise, so say a child is doing some schoolwork, or an adult is engaging in some sort of service at the temple, I find in our society, American society in general, there's a constant need for job well done. That was good. That's beautiful. That's great. So how can we, as people, as devotees, engage in our service and find joy in that without constantly expecting praise-like words?
It's a good question.
This is in my mind, constantly.
I know for myself, I'm always looking for praise.
Right.
And when I get it, I feel good. and it encourages me to go on and do more service. So bring it on, as far as I'm concerned. Of course, within the context of a discussion of how the lack of positive reinforcement and affection in childhood can lead to different kinds of behavior later in life, yes, I suppose an overabundance of praise can also lead to that kind of awkward behavior later on in a society of entitlement, for example, which is, I think, maybe what you're referring to, is that, I know at least in my classes on a undergraduate level, I don't know what they're thinking, but it's as though they're entitled to a good grade without doing the work, kind of thing. And maybe it's because they've been given so much, we've moved so much away from a disciplinary culture toward an indulgent culture that there's a sense of, getting it now, getting it the way I want it, we make it your way. Isn't that somebody's theme somewhere? So maybe that's what you're referring to. I'm not quite sure. A balance in all things maybe is the answer. Not too much, not too little, as Krishna says in the Gita. We can talk about that more if you like. Meet me outside afterwards and we'll talk more. When does this class end, by the way? One more question. Okay. I see somebody who's already got a microphone. I guess you're it. All right.
In spirit of being wrong, I just wanted to say that your books are especially inspiring. Some loves your book about Hanuman. He wants constantly to read that. So, just one comment.
Talk about this is like ordering up the praise right here. Thanks a lot.
And regarding the question, Arjuna, well, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya says, wherever there's Krishna and Arjuna, certainly Arjun's victory, power, and morality. So there's victory in opulence, wherever there's Krishna and Arjuna. So Arjuna is getting this opulence. Does that mean he's less dear Krishna?
We're getting into a negative feed loop here. Are you saying that I'm not following? Is that praise is bad somehow? It's dangerous?
How do you reconcile two statements? That if I favor someone, I take away their wealth. Sanjaya says, wherever there's Krishna.
Right. Okay. You know what? You have to read the next verse. Let me read you the next verse. Okay, this will settle this right quick here. The next verse says, all right, that was verse 8. Read verse 9. When he becomes frustrated in his attempts to make money and instead befriends my devotees, I bestow my special mercy upon him. So don't read verses in isolation. Always read what comes before and what comes after, and it'll give you deeper insight. Okay? Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.